Welcome into episode 149 of the Inside Bassmaster Podcast presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company. I'm your host as usual, Ronnie Moore, my co-host like always, Kyle, Jessie, and Kyle. We start off every month. The first podcast of every month is the Pattern of the Month episode. And today we get the honor to be joined by Clifford Pirch. Not only is an Elite Series pro and one of the best finesse fishermen on tour, he is also a West Coast angler. So he's going to give us a different perspective of the fishing that's out there in the fall. So Clifford, where are you at right now and how are you doing? And your off season's off and running. Does that mean you get to chill or are you fishing and hunting even more?
Well, well, first of all, good morning, guys. Or whatever time it is, I guess, when you play it. But yeah, I'm here on Roosevelt Lake. I've got a little thing this morning, and gonna go out on the water for a little while today, and have some fun. Kind of got off-season things going on, a lot of catching up from being gone, and a little bit of hunting. There's an early rut hunt going on, or kind of finishing up. My team tournament partner got a big bull a couple days ago, and yeah, just kind of doing that kind of stuff. Working on some bait things and new tackle stuff, and getting ready for the U.S. Open. That's coming up in about a week or so, a week plus, and going to practice there next week, and just kind of enjoying being home. I really enjoy coming home to the West.
So Clifford, the first thing we like to normally ask when it comes to the Pattern of the Month episode is whatever time period it is, what's your train of thought? So for October fishing, you can relate it to the Southeast like we had for the Elite schedule in 2020, when we fished tournaments there, or you can relate it out fall fishing in the West. But October, where's Clifford Pirch's mind at for maybe attacking some Arizona bass?
Well, fall is really a time of lots of things going on. You've got fish all over in the water column, top to bottom, and bottom meaning really deep, at times. So if I'm talking main lake fish, they're going to be on schools of bait, and they're pretty mobile. Usually you might find a major area, a big ledge, big flat that's got schools of them roaming and chasing bait. But they don't even have to relate to something sometimes. So lots of fish and fun fishing. You can really get big numbers, like 50 fish days here. It's one of those things where when you find them and get into them, it's really good. And it's typically a midday thing. That's what we're doing today. We're just going to fish from about 9 o'clock till maybe 2 or 3. And it's a high sun type of deal where it just seems like that midday range is really the best fishing. And so number of things be going on. One way to really catch them good is just a drop shot. I've got my new cliffhanger worm here. It's a 4.5-inch drop shot worm, and basically I can take that to any level. You're watching them on your electronics, and if they're on top, well, you can catch them on a top water, but when they go down, you can't. So you can catch them pretty much any level doing that. One thing I've learned about it over the last 10, 15 years guiding during this time of year, bright colors, real bright colors. I've got a couple colors to show you here, but just my bright reds. This one's a new one called Cranberry. It's a real deep red. Polluted Dawn is another one. It's just a bold, bright pink color. And I don't know what it is other than just sunlight penetration and being bright. I've tried like shad color imitations and your normal natural greens, but there is something about having a real bright colored worm out in that open water just gets bit the most. And one way to kind of learn that is having 2 or 3 guys in the boat, and you're like, man, the guy with the red or pink is really getting bit, and it becomes real evident. So that's kind of a tip that I'd use for October, that mid fall pattern on those open water fish. And it's a fun way to fish. You're dropping it into schools of bass, getting it in that zone, and they might be 30 feet. You know what I mean? They might be 50, 20, and you'll watch them as you move with them. It's amazing how much they'll move up and down in the water columns. So it's a fun way to get them. If I'm tournament fishing, or if I'm trying to get big ones, I'm probably going to go a different route. Now you can catch a big one like that, and you get some mixed in, It's just schools of fish that you get all kinds of sizes. But if I was going to select for a big bite, trying to get my 5 biggest, a lot of times I'm going to look for more off-color water. I want to go possibly river ends or somewhere that's got some stain from some wave or wind action, and probably target those fish with depending on the water clarity, but I might be flipping a jig, to heavy cover. I think typically you're not going to get very many bites, but it's a good way to select for the right bites. So fall fishing, and it varies from lake to lake. I'm on Roosevelt here. We've got a ton of clear water through the middle, but then there's a couple of river ends and some other coves and arms that have some color in them, and lots of flooded heavy cover right now where, if you've got some clarity, a top water will really be a big factor. And right now, they're catching a ton of them. I've got a Rico here, a Rio Rico. It's the bigger one. I can really throw it a mile. I can throw it a long ways. And it's something I can fish around cover, be real specific. And it will also get some big bites. Top water is another great way in the fall to get some of those big ones. But again, that's when I've got some clarity. I want to make sure I've got clarity for them to see it good. And, we've got tons of shallow cover right now, so it really holds a lot of fish shallow too. So off color water, I'm probably going to go flipping, maybe, might run a shallow crankbait and stuff like that. And the later it gets, I might do some more of those things, but decent clarity, I'm going to go top water. If I want a lot of fish or really have a bunch of good action, I'm going to go for some of those schooling fish and use my little drop shot worms. So and a number of things will work, but for a suspended fish, but that's just one that really gets bit no matter what depth. They don't have to be on the bottom, like with a football jig or a jigging spoon. We'll do some of the same things as well, but that's just really a good all-around fish catcher. Now, a number of years ago, when I got to fish out west a lot more, we had some big tournaments. The National Guard Series came out, and I won one on Clear Lake, and it was just one of the most amazing tournaments I've ever got to fish with a football jig. And that was a little bit later as they started to get on the bottom, and there was a number of patterns going on. There was shallow, deep fish, and I got on a little something that were fish between 6 and 11 pounds. So that was a fun way. But again, it was a jig, real selectively picking targets, and getting those 5 big ones. Again, if I was going to really catch them, that drop shot really is hard to beat. So that's kind of a handful of fall things. We're going to go out and throw some top waters a little bit today, and use that cliffhanger worm and try to catch a bunch. And it's a really good crappie lake, so I'm going to hopefully go home with a few in the live well. I did put a crappie jig in, crappie rod, and I will try to go home with a few fillets for the.
What do you mean? Everybody in the Elite Series throws crappie jigs these days. It's just for bass. You didn't know that? Yeah. I mean, come on, that's the normal tackle now.
Yeah. No, you do catch a number of things on them, but there's giant crappies in this lake, so I'll probably go try to take home a handful of them today.
Clifford, Ronnie mentioned this earlier, but this is obviously like, a learning deal for me, he and I as well, because we're not, necessarily from Arizona or know a whole lot about fishing there this time of year. Just to further on Ronnie's question, kind of set up like the weather that you guys typically experience in October, what the water temperatures typically range from, and then, where you would consider the stage of the fish, like still transitioning fully into the fall or, still kind of in late summer. How would you describe that?
Well, Arizona has about 300 days or so of sunshine, maybe a little bit more in the desert, 300 days of sunshine a year. So you can see it's bright as it gets, blue sky and sunny. That's really the typical most of the time. It'll be generally pretty calm, real calm, not much wind. Maybe about noon, it might kick up just a little bit if we got, a lot of heating. It's supposed to be about 80, maybe 80-ish today here at the lake. And if you get some heavy heating, there's a ton of mountains around. I don't know how much you can see because I can't really zoom in. The lake's over here, but lots of elevation changes, big mountain ranges all around. That's to the north. This is to the south. You've got Four Peaks behind me, but It's really pretty hard to see, I guess, because I'm so zoomed out. But that goes up to like 7,500 feet elevation right there.
Wow.
And same with that side. So you've got a lot of heating and cooling, and that kind of dictates the wind. And when it gets hot, it'll suck some wind through. But generally, it's super nice, really calm. Right now, I'm looking out at glass, and you can see fish throughout the lake. It's kind of towards the sun. I don't know if you can see it, but really calm, beautiful day out there. You can see the saguaros. It's some of the most amazing scenery. I get to fish all year. These desert western lakes are neat. So, that's kind of what I got. Water temperature still reasonably warm. I mean, you could go swimming and enjoy it. 70s, and it's pretty nice, really. We've had some cool nights over the last week or so, and they are starting to get where they get a little mixed up, where there's lots and lots of things going on. And so, the later we get in October, I think the more of those schooling offshore, big numbers of fish are out there.
It's got to vary, Clifford.
Does that help?
No, 100%. It's got to vary for you, because I could go to Alabama and drive 7 hours and hit 350 lakes. But out west, it seems like you're either near a lake or you're in the middle of the desert. Tell me about, how does Roosevelt, I looked at it on the map right there to the east of Phoenix, south of where you live in Payson. It's not close to Lake Powell. In the north to the west, Vegas and Lake Mead, all those different lakes there. Havasu's probably not super far away in terms of like closeness, but tell me about how those lakes to the west and to the north could be different than where you're at now.
Well, there's definitely a lot of variety. You've got our desert, our desert reservoirs, big canyon lakes, steep, deep, pretty good clarity. Roosevelt, Lake Pleasant, Lake Mead, Lake Mojave, Lake Powell, things like that. Lake Havasu doesn't fluctuate. Mojave doesn't fluctuate much either. The rest of these lakes are water storage, so they fluctuate a little bit, and you get a lot of level change. Right now, we're in an upswing. Arizona had a fantastic, one of the best winters of my lifetime, and the lake had already been really healthy for a couple of years. So we're looking at probably the best conditions of my lifetime, really.
Wow.
Right now, the lake is higher than it's ever been in September, October. So we're still at almost 90%. I think it might be 88, 89 today or something like that. I haven't looked for a week or so, but that's incredible here. And what that does is, if you compare it to things like Obregon or Falcon, Amistad, when it's full, it's a lot like that. Tons and tons of heavy flooded brush, mesquites, cactus, salt cedars, some willows, lots of cottonwoods, tons and tons of heavy cover. So the lake is all time healthy. It's going to be, it's going to put out weights that are Falcon like and Mexico like, and it has, 3 fish tournaments. There was some 3 fish tournaments that, over the summer that were, anywhere from 18 to 27 pounds to win. So pretty incredible weights. And the good news is we don't have to have much of a winter for it to be full again this year. So we really are piggybacking off multiple years, and it's just an ideal time for us here. So pretty exciting fishing. I kind of deviated from your question a little bit, but obviously we've got some canyon, deep, clear reservoirs, but when you go to the Colorado River on the lower Colorado, you're dealing with a river, a lot of current, flooded backwaters, tons of cane and tules, and those are bulrushes, reeds, and buggy.
Yeah, reeds for us. Tules. We always love going. We have to always say it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's either a flat tule or a pencil tule out here around one.
Just like grass down south is weeds up north.
Weeds.
So yeah, we got the term.
Fish in the weeds. So that lower Colorado and a lot of Lake Havasu to Lake Mojave is flooded shallow cover tules. And then I also kind of think of places like the California Delta as home. Really, it's 14 and a half hours for me to get there, but
I just did it on the calendar, on the map, to see how far it was.
Yeah, the West is just wide open, big, and so, we got to travel quite a bit. I get a kick out of these guys that, if they can't get there by lunchtime from Nashville, they're you're upset about how much gas they spend. And don't get me wrong, I hate spending money on gas, but like, I'm like, you guys got no clue. It takes me 3 days to get out every tournament you guys are at, and that's
the nearest grocery store is 14 hours away. What are we talking about?
Yeah, come on, man. Come get my back seat. We'll see we'll see a little bit different things happen. So
that's I said that me and Kyle have talked about this. I would love to do an out west swing like everybody wants us to, but I would love to spend an entire month and we maybe do 3 of the 4 weeks. We have a back-to-back, we have a week off, and then another tournament, so that we have a third of our schedule maybe out there. And obviously there's multiple times of the year we could do it. But to follow up on that, you were talking about the types of lakes that you have and the diversity and variety. All these lakes, are they going to have largemouth, smallmouth, and spotted bass, or is that just some, or are there some lakes that excel at one over the other and it changes for the next lake?
Everything's going to have largemouth. A handful of them are going to have smallmouth. Like Lake Mojave next week will be heavy on the smallmouth, big bags, and some largemouth. Havasu is about an even mix, I'd say, of smallmouth, largemouth. The lower river is mostly largemouth. Roosevelt's got a decent population of smallmouth, but it's probably going to be more 80% largemouth catches, maybe more. And you catch a lot more of them in the winter when they just kind of get more active and available. Lake Powell, loaded with smallmouth, a decent largemouth fishery. Same with Lake Mead, loaded with smallmouth, decent largemouth. The spots, they all happen up north. We don't have any down here, but you're going to be talking about places like Shasta, Oroville, the famous things that you hear about, Buller's Bar, those Folsom, giant ones. Yeah. And, all those places are mainly Northern California deals, and everywhere's got largemouth. And I've been fishing. Here's a little bizarre trivia. I've been traveling for, I think, since about 2005 out east. My 4 biggest bass have still come from this lake right here, my home lake. So, wow. And that's what I love about the West, is you always have the potential to catch an absolute behemoth, So I do love that. This lake, my biggest 13.6, got a couple in the 13 range, 12 and a half. And they, obviously California, you can even get some bigger ones. I've got friends that have got, and a buddy of mine out of Saguaro down below here, 14 and a half, couple wow. friends with 14. And the California guys, they can even get a bigger one than that occasionally, 16, 17, 18. So, yeah, I wish we had the Western swing. You're preaching to the choir.
We need your help. We got to set it up. So I'll just go ahead and put you on the burner. When would you want to do it? Let's just say we did 3 elites out west. And when I say west, I mean, you're talking about Clear Lake being one that you travel to frequently. That's like if I drove to where I went to school at East Carolina, that's 15 hours from Little Rock. So if that's all within the realm, it's crazy. But if you had to formulate 3 lakes in a 4-week span, what time of year would it be? And what would your 3 places be?
Well, it would depend which ones we're going to, but you could do an early swing prior to the Classic down here in the desert. You could do one at Roosevelt, Havasu, Lake Mead, Lake Mojave. Mojave's a sleeper, let me tell you. Mojave is loaded with big ones now. And, that would be a good early season, because those giant smallmouth, they catch some 7s, 6, 7, 8s in there. Wow. And that would be a good time. Obviously the desert, we can fish here all year. People come here for the winter. We have good fishing right through Christmas normally. So you could do an early stretch, or like last time, 2015, which was fantastic. I loved it. Almost got to win both of them, but that is a good time also, especially like for the Northern Cal stuff. The California Delta is fantastic in May. You can get a full moon in May on the California Delta. You got good tide swings. You got a lot of different things going on. You got some pre-spawn bass, more of them closer to the spawn, and some post-spawn. A lot of things going on. It's a fantastic time to go there. Havasu, showed out in May last time. It was fantastic. Everybody had 14 pounds, or it was really, really good fishing. Lots of good fish. So that would be another good time. If you came like an April, May-ish. And you could do a later one than that, but there's a lot of great places we could go. Now, if you came here in June, you would crack them. I mean, it would be absolutely a smash fest, but it'd be hot. It'd be super hot. You know what I mean? It'd be like going to, Falcon and in May or June, or even it can be that hot on some of the Tennessee River lakes in June, where you're,
For sure.
in the 90, close to 100. So, most likely like that April, May time frame would work. And you could do a pre-classic time frame if you just mainly stuck to the desert lakes, or added in the spotted bass factor. I've fished on Shasta in January, and it's been excellent. So those places
Hey, maybe why don't we just do 2 elites and then have a week and a half off, and we'll just do the third event out west as the classic? Why don't we just do that?
Well, that's what I was hoping. The 50th anniversary was going to be at Lake Mead.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have any water. Now they have water. Just like 3 years later, they have water finally.
Yeah. Well, they had more water than most anywhere else we go a couple of years ago. But last year the ramps did drop out of the water.
Yeah.
But it's come back up some this year. They had good recovery and good winter, but it'll take another big one or two to get it back up. But I wish we'd do that. I'd be all for it. Do 2 Western events, and then the classic at Lake Mead. Bring it on. I'd love that.
I think there's a couple things I wanted to mention here. Obviously, the first one being, I guess I didn't realize the largemouth size on the high end. Clifford's over here talking about catching multiple 13s. I don't know a single person from the state I grew up in that could say that. So that's honestly really surprising. And then 2, I feel like a bit of a wuss now, because one of my biggest complaints since moving to Central Alabama is that I'm like 45 minutes from the closest lake, as where I grew up, I was like 20 minutes from 3 lakes. So now I really don't feel bad. Now we're talking about 13 and a half, 14 hours to a home lake. So a couple of things I just wanted to mention there. But Clifford, one thing we always do on this podcast for the pattern of the month, is give us your top 3 baits. But since you already talked about a couple of them, give us your top 5, if we can stretch you out to 5. Give you your 5 baits that you couldn't live without in October.
I got a helicopter coming over here. It might get loud, but obviously my cliffhanger, it's the drop shot worm from Big Bite Baits. And that's going to be my number 1 for fish catches, for really getting a lot of action. Now, if I'm talking about, I need to wait. Is it pretty loud, that helicopter?
No, you're good.
Okay. Then my number 2 would be top waters. A lot of times this Rico or Real Rico, really good bait for catching big ones and good numbers if you can get them near the surface, schooling too. So top waters are going to be way up there. My go-to to try to win a tournament, I'm probably going to be flipping a jig, flipping heavy cover, or maybe, fishing top waters around shallow heavy cover. I'd take a green pumpkin, brown jig with the ram tail craw. It's a little kicker legs craw that we designed for Big Bite Baits, and that would be something that would really be I would stick to that in my arsenal. Now, some of the lakes, they're going to get offshore and they're going to get deep. So then I would be looking at if I was talking about, say, a Clear Lake or here at Roosevelt, I might be fishing a deep crankbait or a big football jig. Same with that ram tail trailer. I want some good kick, good action. A heavy jig with like a 3/4 ounce gives me that motion to trigger fish. I want to get a lot of movement, falling rock to rock to rock. And how many is that?
I think you got cliffhanger, top water, flipping, and then a crankbait.
Okay. I didn't keep count, but if I had to throw something else, we've got a little bait we've made called the spider bait. It's basically it's an Alabama rig cross. It's a compact uh, Alabama rig's got mostly blades on it, and we can use 2 hooks in Arizona. So we just put 2 little swim baits on the back. That's a great fish catcher, and it will catch big ones too. So that would be my range of things that I'd really like to do. If I was over on the smallmouth places where there's a lot more smallmouth potential, I'd be leaning more towards some of the, the cliffhanger, and also maybe a little a Ned rig, smallmouth tricks, a wacky worm with, weight like Nico, things like that. Definitely lean more into some of those smallmouth tricks if you're on places like Havasu, Mojave, Lake Powell, Lake Mead. So yeah, I guess that'd be my range. Again, the fall is a time where you've rarely got just a couple or just a few rods out on the front deck. Usually you've got a lot of stuff going on because everything gets all over in the water column, and you could leave the river arm, drive across the lake, and they could come up boiling in the middle. There's a million things that happen in the fall. And so it's junk fishing heaven. And those are 5 or 6 things that I would use, but I'm going to have a lot of things available.
Clifford, forward facing sonar has been a big topic in the sport, and it's obviously changed. Like, you were one of the best anglers when it comes to smallmouth fishing or finesse fishing with 2D or side imaging. You always turn that back, unit on the ram mount, and you're able to see what your side imaging is doing while you're up there. What have you learned from using? I think you use active target, or you did in the past maybe, but what have you learned from forward facing sonar on places like Roosevelt, where you probably caught them doing the same things with 2D years ago? Now you're seeing like, oh, this was right, or this is where I was wrong.
Well, you definitely can see fish behavior. You realize you probably never made a cast that a fish wasn't following your bait. So it is a weird thing when you see how much is going on down there. It's obviously changed drastically the lay of the tournament world. I wish it had never got invented, because I love just the instinct of bass fishing and all that. But now that it's here, it's not going to go away. There's nothing you can do about it. And I think the drawback from being an older angler or been around a while, and what hurts a lot of the older anglers and why you see that young age class of guys now competing best, really dominating a lot of things, is that's what they're starting out with. That's what they're growing up with. And, with all the live feed everywhere we've ever been, where to go, what to throw, what to look for, all these things. And then you take guys that are grown up on live technology, and they're committing to it. I think the whole deal is they're committing to it. We all can use it, but you have to put those other things out of your mind. You can't dabble in it because the margins are so slim, say on the Elite Series, that not committing to that the entire time, and just like some, and then, hey, I can kind of catch them doing this too. This is what I normally do. It just leaves you a step behind. So it's one of those things where it's really changed the face of fishing. I think the only thing I can do is embrace it and be good at it. But it is a real mind battle to make yourself do that instead of go flip some shallow cover or flip some docks, or want to look under the docks and dabble here and dabble there. And, man, I've got a lot of these things. When you've got a guy out there that from the get go, he's scoping. And when the clock runs out, he's still scoping. And, it's hard to beat that. It's hard to beat that. So I think it's changed where the weights slide up. You catch everything that lives somewhere. And if you're caught dabbling, you're going to finish somewhere just below that, or in the middle, or even low, if it doesn't work out. So it's really it's really changed how things are. And as somebody that's been doing this a while, you've got to change some of your habits. And we've seen it, fantastic fishermen getting left behind, and a whole new thing developing. So I think you've got to embrace it. It's not going away.
Have you seen
And
it at the local level or the US Opens and things out west? Like when you're around home, you're like, wow, the weights are up, or wow, like the weights are similar that they used to, but to get a check, it's more,
I haven't been able to fish local enough yet to know, but I know it's a major part of it, and the guys that have embraced it, obviously, they watch. You can learn everything now. Watch you guys on the live show. They know that's what I'm going to do. Who hasn't bought the live technology? It's for sure changed everything. I think it'll, there's always a little bit of a lag time in local events where, we're on the Elite Series.
It's
if you're not doing it, you're clobbered,
Yeah.
and in the local stuff, there's probably a mix of guys still doing well, doing what they do, and guys that are scoping and having that kind of success. So yeah, it's there, but it's probably not, 80-90% through the field as it would be on like the Elite Series.
Clifford, here's something I've thought a handful of times, and it's a hard question to ask. There might not be a good answer, but when I think about your career and guys like Chris Zaldain and a handful of West Coast guys, it seems like the two extremes, like the extremely finesse stuff you guys are incredibly good at, and then the opposite of that, like the big baits and fishing swim baits and things like that. It's like the two most extreme things possible, like West Coast anglers a lot of times tend to have success with. Is there anything you can kind of like pinpoint that to, or is it just the fact that the lakes are such a wide variety of things?
That's a big part. I think the lakes are such a wide variety of things. If you grew up fishing out west, and we've got some Western anglers on the Elite Series that they didn't really grow up fishing out west. But if you're talking Zaldain and me, and generations before, Aaron,
Amart, yep,
John
Josh.
Murray, and yeah, Josh is younger than me. He's actually newer, and Josh fishes in Arizona, but he grew up fishing out east, really, his tour level experience. But we go back to where it was Clear Lake, California Delta, Shasta, Meade, Mojave, Havasu, Powell, all that stuff. And so I think there's such a big variety, that's probably why. And the other thing is, on the giant bass fisheries, really you can't compete unless you've got to weigh those giants. And so, like, say if you're fishing a tournament at Clear Lake, you've got to make 5 enormous bass bites. So that either means that you put a big swim bait on, or something that you are selecting for giants all day long, or you're finding an area that has giants and getting bites. And that's why, like, things like when the drop shot came out, it was winning tournaments, and it still does on California Delta, Clear Lake. First time, some of the first times I went to Clear Lake, I'm like, I didn't come here to throw a drop shot. And Luke Clausen, I think he won one of them, with a 4.5-inch drop shot worm. And my co-angler partner that stayed with me, he won, fishing that thing. And so that was an eye opener at the time. So I think that's the two extremes. If you can find where the big ones live, the best way to get bit is a drop shot a lot of times. And so if you get bites, you get those big ones. Now, if you've got to just really cover water to get the right fish to bite, something big like a swim bait, the giant baits you see Chris Zaldain throwing, those things are what you have to really commit to get those big bags.
Which means you can come in with 3, or you don't get a limit one day.
Yeah. And in those tournaments out here, there's a whole lot of guys that do that. They got 2 big ones and 3 big ones, but it's not enough. But enough guys commit to it that you have to do that in order to get them. So it's I think that's part of the reason. And I don't know, the West is a really weird, it's totally different than out East. And there's some guys that were really able to succeed out East. I've only won 1 tournament east of Arizona. I won one on Chickamauga like 10, 12 years ago. And
you almost won on Fort Loudon a couple years ago too.
Well, I've had some good events, don't get me wrong. I got second in Florida, and I've had, some top tens in Florida and up north and all over, but like out west, I can win. I feel like I can win, and I've won a lot. Take a guy like John Murray. John Murray dominated the West. But he won one or two out there. I think he won one on Toledo Bend a few years ago, and won one maybe Louisiana or something. I think he won a Washita River event or something like that. But guys like Skeet and Aaron and Brent Ayler, they were able to take Brett Height. They were able
Lucas.
to take their Lucas is just strong everywhere. Fantastic, such a versatile and great fisherman. They've been able to really win out east and kind of take that confidence and fish out there. I don't know what it is, but there's just something where a lot of times, anytime out west, I'm fishing to win. When I go out there, sometimes I'm fishing to survive and get classic points, because I'm like, okay, I don't quite get it. I don't know how to make this happen. And it's not really worth it for me to bomb when I need to get, stay in that top 50 money cut and points race for the Bassmaster Classic. So it's funny how some guys have been really able to take that out there. And, I maybe haven't so much. And John, or, John, there's some guys that just really haven't been able to do that out east as well.
Hey, you've had your, maybe not wins, but man, for about a decade span, I was more shocked if you missed the Classic than if you made it, because you were in the top 20 in points. So don't sell yourself short on consistency. But yeah, every angler goes out with the intention of winning. Clifford, when we do these in the off season with anglers, they're either on the water or in the stand. I don't even think you get in the stand, because your type of hunting out there, I said that we might talk about this a little bit. Your type of hunting is that 75-foot elevation behind you. You just climb to the top of that and shoot the biggest thing that's up there. So tell us about hunting season from October to Christmas, and what you can hunt for, and man, how much enjoyment, and how that's a whole nother aspect of your life you get to enjoy for business reasons, but also stuff that no one else in the world will see, or at least no one else on the elites will normally see.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the biggest reason I haven't moved out there. It's not smart. Justin Lucas moved to Alabama. Aaron moved to Alabama. Lots of guys. Fred moved out there. Lots of guys move out there. And it's not smart to come out here. But I can't give up. I love where I live. I can walk, 20, 30, 40 miles in any direction and never cross private property. I can go anywhere I want without getting permission. And I love that. We're right kind of in the middle or tail end of the elk rut right now. So lots of exciting action, seeing the big bulls, making a lot of noise or bugling. It's a really exciting time. I've got a late archery tag, and I've got some guys, some friends and fishermen coming. David Williams is coming. He's got a late archery tag.
Wow. Cool.
And we will be doing some tree stand hunting. Then you see desert down here, but you get up in elevation, there's trees and canopy, big pine,
on top of a cactus. Like, you're sitting in a cactus.
Yeah, you could hang a stand in a saguaro down here, but they're rough to climb. But we'll do some late archery hunting, and then some late rifle hunting. There's a little bit of late rifle hunting after that. The elk, mainly elk, a lot of deer. A lot of my buddies are just hardcore coos deer hunters. We've got some hardcore mule deer hunters. My dad has a really neat tag here just north of me in the unit right here. There's only 10 permits for December for mule deer. So that's kind of a fun one. We're going to have to hold his bullets, keep his bullets from him, because he's a killer and he never goes without filling his tag. I burn a lot of tags because I'm like, I want that one. And, we're going to go for that one until we do or we don't. So yeah, lots of fun hunting opportunities. Small game stuff opens tomorrow, quail, ducks, turkey, all kinds of stuff, the waterfowl things and bird hunting, but lots of hunting opportunities. I love being in the mountains, but I will fish a lot. I love to fish too. And we'll try to mix it all in. So did I go to anywhere near your question on that?
No, 100%. All I know is that if Brandon Polinick and Cliff Pirch were on top of a mountain somewhere out west, they could probably hit me if I stepped out my back door in Little Rock, just because y'all are some of the best hunters in the world, it seems, especially sportsman wise. But Clifford, appreciate you joining us for Pattern of the Month. Get out on Roosevelt, go catch a teener. If you do, please send us a photo of it. We will put it in the podcast before it airs. You got about an hour to go catch them. So thank you for joining us. We hope to go out west. Tell everybody Bass doesn't hate the West. We're trying to figure it out. There's a lot of change happening. I am trying to be on the inside of the company, and so is Kyle, probably saying, let's do it. Let's just go do it. There's a lot of anglers, a lot of fishermen out there, a lot of fans that would enjoy seeing it. And it's definitely a trip. My only regret in life is that I walked across my college graduation to get my diploma, and I missed the Lake Havasu event. I was at Delta. I flew home to graduate college, and I missed the Havasu event. I took it for granted. I thought we'd be back soon. So hopefully we come back, and yeah.
Hopefully you come back. I'm all for it. Obviously the Western folks, when that schedule comes out, they're hurt that it's not on there. And I'm with them. I'm all for a Western event. I think you need to come back to Lake Havasu and experience it.
I should just come just to come. That'd be great.
Yeah. And, but I'm just looking forward to that. That was one of the major reasons why I switched to the Elite Series about 11, 12, 13 years ago. And, is that Western swing. So I'm hoping for it again. And, we'll see. But today, we got a beautiful day. I'm going to go out fish on Roosevelt. Hopefully we'll catch a bunch. We're going to go for a 13-pounder. And I've got a guy from the tackle shop. It's a great new tackle shop, Copper State Tackle. They've got an online store and they're expanding. Great guys. They've got a super new shop going on. We're going to go out and I'm going to learn more about that. So something your fans can check out also. And
yeah,
we'll see if we can't send you a giant one. I will try to send you a picture of a big one today.
That would be great. Kyle, it's been a pleasure talking with Clifford Pirch. It is a wild. I went on a mission trip to Vegas and we got to see Meade and Henderson in that region. And that's not even nearly out in the middle of nowhere like some of the other places are. And it's a wild world out there. Pretty cool to see the lines on the water from the 1980s where the water used to be, and then here, and then how it goes up and down. So Clifford, be safe, have fun. We will see you at Toledo Bend to kick off the Elite Series schedule.
Okay, thanks guys. Good talking to you, and I'll work on that picture.